Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Carrie Manning from Heritage Dental Spa and Salon.
And I'm Will Ware. I'm with WHHI-TV. We're coming to you today from the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. And our first guest is Dr. Sean Barth, who is the program chair of the Hospitality Management Program.
And our second guest is Dr. Brent Morris. He's the Associate Professor of History.
And our final guest is Dr. Peter Swift, who is with the Business Program here at USCB. So stick around for more 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.
.843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
.843 TV,
where communities come to speak. Welcome to 843 TV. We're joined now by Dr. Sean Barth, who is the program chair of the Hospitality Management Program here at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. Sean, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about the Hospitality Management Program here at USCB and kind of the evolution of the program?
Sure. The program's started on Hilton Head about 30 years ago. This institution that we're sitting in now was built in 2004. And it's our hopes by fall of 2018 we'll be back on Hilton Head Island where we started. We've been offering a general management program to students of the Low Country for that entire period of time. It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, Hilton Head seems to make sense to have a hospitality management program there on the island.
Tourism being the #1 industry in South Carolina and Hilton Head being a world-class resort destination, I think it's a perfect match.
Absolutely. And I understand that there's an internship program that you all have here at the Hospitality Management Program. Can you tell us how that works?
Sure. We believe in our program that experiential learning and hands-on learning is very important for our students to gain experience in the industry that they eventually want to work in. We have a practicum class when our students are, sophomores or freshmen, that they work a 200-hour job in some regard in the hospitality industry, and then they move on to a 400-hour work experience in an internship in one of our local area resorts or restaurants or private clubs. They have a lot of options around here. It's a pretty exciting place for them to be.
Absolutely. And do you find that after spending some time working in these, that they're able to maybe connect a little differently with the material you're presenting them with?
It is fun, and I always consider it turning the lights on, right? It's fun to see students go from always consuming the education to then being able to use that education for analytical skills or to help one of their other classmates. It's really exciting when that happens. I enjoy that more than anything else.
Right, kind of like a game experience.
It is, they go out and they work hard and they learn, and then they come back and help other people learn. It's a good industry, I think, very nurturing in nature.
Very cool.
Are there any particular experiences that you can think of that are unique to the hospitality management that your students may have experienced because they're in this area?
I think that this area is unique, very, very unique from hospitality. I've worked all over the nation in hospitality positions, and I think that, there's nothing more nurturing than Hilton Head Island. We have so many professionals. One example is, there's about 290 restaurants in Beaufort County, but very few chains. And so these are a lot of mom and pop type operations that like to give back because they know how hard it is in this industry. So they nurture our students and they bring our students along from, line level employees to managers. And we've had several people move through that type of system here and be very successful.
They treat you more like family.
And that's what some people look for. There are definitely students that look for that big city feel after they leave here and they want to just go be, work in a bigger environment. But a lot of our students appreciate the nature of where we are, and they do take part in those type operations where it is more of a family feel.
And I think that's what makes this area unique too.
It is very unique. The other part that I was going to say is, I've never been in another community that likes to give back to the community so much.
Everybody participates.
Everybody participates. And so, there are so many professionals and all the volunteer experiences that we participate in. And those experiences are so great for the students because they may never know who they're working with.
Right.
But the person that they're working with could have been a Fortune 100 CEO.
Right.
And so I've gotten several of those experiences where the students come back and say, "Did you know who I was just talking to?"
And sometimes they won't tell you.
A lot of times.
Sometimes it's like top secret, because that's what I always say at work. I'm like, so how'd you get here? Well, I did this. And then eventually they'll open up. I'm like, okay, wow, that is so not what I thought you did.
Fortunately, being here for 10 years, I know some of those people, so I get to then make that correlation for the students. They're like, no way.
It does take them by surprise, I bet. I bet that's a very unique experience.
It does.
For them.
For sure, it's a very unique place, and we're very, happy and proud to be a part of so many different entities. Most of the major festivals we take part in, the students get to learn and work at, the Heritage Foundation, the Heritage Golf Tournament, and take part in South Carolina's biggest sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing that for about 9 years. It's a fantastic partnership.
And it's fun.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and all along the way, from large entities like that, all the way down to the Island Rec Center events and things like that, where the students get to work with dedicated community members, and so it's just a lot of fun.
Well, Sean, we're all at USCB thrilled to be expanding out to Hilton Head with the new building coming up. What sort of new expanded opportunities do you see as being available stemming from that?
Sure, thanks, Dr. Morris. I think that being in prime location, so close to where a lot of the business happens, I call it the hub of the tourism. The South End is a great place to be in the summer, but it is busy, and so I think sometimes out of sight, out of mind really plays a big part. So I think when we're in front of people, we're going to be able to interact with the community even more. These small mom and pop business operations that I'm talking about might be able to come in and work one-on-one with a student that wants to maybe develop a marketing plan for their new business. Or maybe there's a festival committee that needs to meet and we host them in our new building. I think that there's a lot of ties to the community that maybe aren't possible being in Bluffton that will come to light as we go through this process.
Yeah. Sean, as you look at the hospitality management program long term, what are some of your hopes for how things will evolve?
Always looking for growth, Dr. Swift. Always looking for growth. And I think, being able to market a world-class destination with the facilities that we hope to have is going to be the key to that growth. I know when I was a student longer and longer ago as we moved down this path, I remember some of the great experiences that I got where I went to school, but I think that here with there's an idea of a culinary lab, a beverage lab, a tiered production classroom, and some of these other things that are going to be built into this building are just going to set us apart from a lot of other schools that are out there.
Right.
There's so many opportunities and there's so much information. So thank you very much for being with us today. We can't get it all in one segment. Make sure that you check out the website for more information about the Hospitality Management Program, and make sure that you come right back for more 843 TV. Welcome back to 843 TV. We're here now with Dr. Brent Morris. He's the Department Chair of Humanities and Associate Professor of History at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. How are you this morning?
Doing well. Thanks for the invitation.
All right, so you're the Director of the National Endowment for the Humanities Summer Institute, Americans, Reconstruction, The Untold Story. Tell everybody what that is exactly.
Well, it's a 3-week summer institute sponsored by the National Endowment for the Humanities, and this will be our second time doing this, the first being 2015. And what we're doing is bringing 30 K-12 educators from across the country, selecting them from about 100 to 150 applicants, so really the best teachers that America has to offer, bringing them to Beaufort to have an intensive 3-week course in the Civil War and Reconstruction era, which a lot of people kind of overlook this historical period, but it's really one of the most important periods of American history that there is. And our intention is to bring these teachers who are the best and the brightest to Beaufort to learn this history, and then to sort of send them back out to the communities that they came from to reincorporate this important story into their curriculum to help their students, and then ultimately the students of their students maybe one day down the road to understand Reconstruction, to understand our past, but also to sort of understand where we're going with this.
Yeah. Brent, why do you think the Reconstruction era, the history of the Reconstruction era, has largely been ignored?
Well, it's a controversial topic in a lot of ways, Peter. It's the Reconstruction era following the Civil War. So it was reconstructing America, not just picking up the pieces from this very destructive fight, but actually ideologically reconstructing people's minds. So convincing people in the South that, you know, slavery was not something that was appropriate. And the racism that they had based their entire society on for so long had to be replaced with something else. The way that Southern history has developed, a lot of times that story has been an uncomfortable one to tell. Especially through the Jim Crow era, into the Civil Rights Movement, even up until modern history today, people just aren't really quite sure how to talk about it. And depending on what generation you come from, you might have been taught about Reconstruction, if
or
at
even
all.
what part of the country.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. You might have been told a different story about what this history was like. So what we're trying to do is to make this untold story told again. So we're educating these teachers. We're sending them back out, and they're teaching all levels of kids, from kindergartners up through AP high school history students, and hoping to re-inject this history back into their curriculum. And one of the reasons that it's often ignored, besides just being a controversial topic, is the fact that the way that American history is normally taught, you break it into two different sections. So it's American history up to the Civil War,
right,
and then the second half is from the Civil War
right,
on to the modern era.
Yep.
And what happens, and I'm guilty of it as any other history teacher, but you rush to finish up the semester, and you are barely getting to touch on the subject matter at the end of that semester. So you hardly get to the Reconstruction era. At the beginning of the second semester, you're rushing to get to something else. You're trying to not fall behind like you remember you did the semester before. And Reconstruction is what gets overlooked on both sides of the equation there. So it really is kind of this fulcrum point of American history. It's when questions that are very important to us still to this day were being debated, and it's worth knowing. It's really worth knowing, and you have to understand it to understand American history. So we really want to try to help teachers figure out ways to get this story out there and to have it told.
Got it.
Dr. Morris, help us understand, in your professional field, why modern Americans should care so much about the events of 150 years ago.
It's the question every one of my students asks me at the beginning of the semester. Why does history matter? And
right,
with this particular topic, it's a lot more than just the old adage that if you don't remember your history, you're bound to repeat it. But it's sort of the same thing here. But Reconstruction was really the first time that Americans made a conscious effort to bring themselves consistent with the promises they made in the Declaration of Independence and at the beginning of the country. The idea that all men are created equal, the idea that all people have certain inalienable rights. You know, these were ideas that were thrown around by people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, who, while saying things like that, were slave owners. Very, very hypocritical. But then the Civil War was fought, and it was fought over slavery, and then once that war was over and slavery was out of the way, it was no longer part of America. Americans had to figure out how to come to terms with what they had just lived through. And not just how to figure out what they had just done, but how to remember it and how to tell the story going forward. And the questions that they wrestled with at that point, a lot of people have called the Reconstruction era this new birth of freedom, coming from a speech that Abraham Lincoln gave. And it was really a new birth in a lot of ways. They had to figure out how America was going to be put on the path towards success and what questions were important, what issues needed to be discussed. And they brought up issues like, who is a citizen? That question was answered by the passage of the 14th Amendment in Reconstruction. And if you want to bring it home today, I mean, you look at the question of who is a citizen in the United States. It's still something that Americans are wrestling with. The 14th Amendment is still a hot topic of conversation. So questions that were first wrestled with in the 1860s and 1870s are still coming up. We haven't quite resolved the issues. Slavery is not coming back, but the legacies of slavery we're still very much wrestling with. So even though Reconstruction essentially only lasted or was supported by the federal government for about 10 years, the messages and the arguments that they were talking about didn't go away. They just were silenced for a little while. And then you get the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of the folks who were involved in Reconstruction who come of age in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, and they're the leaders of the American Civil Rights Movement. they're the ones that finally bring home the advances of Reconstruction, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and finally bring to fruition a lot of the things that Reconstruction folks wanted to put into place in the 60s, 1860s and 1870s. So we're still trying to bring ourselves into consistency with the civil rights movement. So I think it's very, very relevant, which is why teachers need to get this story taught to the students at a very young age.
And it's relevant to our area, right? I mean, our area is rich in this type of history, right? I mean, the Reconstruction area.
Reconstruction essentially starts in Beaufort. I mean, Beaufort was one of the first territories to be retaken, and Reconstruction lasted longer here than anywhere else.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. And we're out of time, but Brent, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And stick around for one more segment of 843 TV. Welcome back to 843 TV. We're now joined by Dr. Peter Swift, who is the Senior Instructor of Business and pretty much in charge of the Saturday Business degree here at USCB. Thanks for joining us today, Peter.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we were talking a little bit off camera about the Saturday Business degree plan, and this is something that's unique to South Carolina. How did it get started, and can you tell us a little bit about the program?
Sure. The business administration program here is the largest major at the school.
Okay.
And about 8 years ago, we noticed that many of our students were coming to the school to finish their degrees. They'd already had some courses that they'd started, when they were younger. They were working. They wanted to get their 4-year degree to progress in their careers, and we noticed that they were having a very difficult time, scheduling classes during the week.
Right.
So it was really a number of factors coming together. We have the buildings here on Saturday. They made it very clear that they'd be willing to come to school on Saturday. We had staff here, both full-time faculty and part-time faculty, that indicated they'd be willing to teach on Saturday. And so we started the program, and that was in 2008.
Okay.
And but we had our first class graduate in 2010, 2011. And since then, we've had about 100 students graduate and get their Bachelor of Science degrees in business by going to school on Saturday, and it's been very rewarding.
I bet.
Dr. Swift, what's a normal Saturday like for these students? What do they do?
Well, again, it's every Saturday, and it's an 8-week block, and they come to the school, and they take 2 classes on the Saturday. Each class is 3.5 hours long with a lot of breaks, and of course we break for lunch. We also have time off and major holidays, etc. But it's 8 weeks, 2 classes at a time. And the reason I think it works so well is that a student can see their progression very clearly. We lay out their courses for them, and they know they can see how they progress, and importantly, because they're only taking 2 courses at a time, they can focus.
Right.
And that seems to be key to the program and enabling them to manage their time. And of course, we work very closely with them in terms of setting up their course planning and their course schedules, because each student has their own individual needs.
Well, Peter, you've spoken to this a little bit already, but what type of student in particular are you looking for in this program? And if somebody realizes that they're actually one of those people and they want to pursue this program, what do they need to do? What are the next steps they should take?
Well, as I said, every student has a unique situation, and they can see an awful lot of information about this program at our website. And there's some testimonials. We have interviews with students on the website. And what they should do is contact the university, and our admissions department knows all about the program, and they'll probably link them up with me or someone in the business department to talk to them about a course plan that will work for them.
Well, it sounds like this program's growing, catching on pretty quickly. What are your hopes for this program long term?
Well, long term is to continue to expand the program because, as I indicated, the employers in the area are very supportive of it.
Right.
We have our enrollment continues to grow. It was interesting when 8 years ago when we started this, we all had our doubts that that people would come to school on Saturday. But what we see is that we just see continual growth as more and more students become aware, working students become aware of the program and the opportunity to get their 4-year degree. The reality is, as I look at this area and I see all the houses going up, on Mill River Road and those kind of things, it's very clear that people need a college degree to move forward in their careers. And there's just an awful lot of growth going on here. And what Saturday provides is an option for someone to work and complete their education so that their employer sees them as being a valuable asset to their company and where they can get where they can get promoted. One of the things that I've noticed in talking to a lot of companies is that they require the college degree, even if somebody has a lot of experience.
Right. They
do require a college degree. A business is a great degree to get, and in order to progress, that's what you need. And
well, I think when the job market gets tougher and you're competing for your spot,
right,
that shows the employer a lot more that if you have that and you're willing to pursue that.
Right.
And I think it's great for working parents or someone who kind of veered off the path and got a full-time job but wants to finish it. That's a great opportunity for them.
We like to call our students reformed. And,
Yes.
and what I really enjoy about the program is that you have these students who in their youth may have not applied themselves 100% or life got in the way. And they're coming back with a vengeance, and they're a lot of fun to have in the class, and
well, they're probably a lot more focused too on what they want their long-term goal to be.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's very vague when you're 18. You just take what you're supposed to be taking to get your degree, and then once you find a passion for it, you're like, okay, let's focus.
Yes, they definitely focused.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Okay, thank you.
And for more information about any of these programs, make sure that you check out their website and make sure that you come back next time for more 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.